Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for registering for tonight's talk with Johnny Walker. It's the last of our phone meetings that we've really got going ahead. We've had quite a lot throughout certainly the last 6 months, which has been fantastic. Thank you very much for your attendance. Tonight is on how six-figure finance executives get their ideal job faster for more money without having to sell themselves. Which many people know Johnny very much from doing his 5-day challenge and throughout the thing, and also work with him directly understand. So comes highly recommended. Tonight's session will be interactive, so make the most of that time and have questions throughout with Johnny directly. Please use the Q&A at the bottom, and I'll try and raise topics, or use the reactions or emoticon just to raise your hand. And I'll try, if there's any interesting questions come up, which I'm sure there will be, I'll direct them to Johnny. We'll try and make sure there's 15 minutes at the end for any dedicated questions that don't come up generally going through. So it should be fantastic. While Johnny's speaking, please stay on mute throughout so that we make sure we get the recording of this. As you know, it's being recorded, but if you could stay on mute just while Johnny's talking, so there's no background noise, that would be fantastic and greatly appreciated. Over to Johnny.
Cool. Before I dive headlong into anything, is there anybody here who knows me or has watched me on LinkedIn or has ever spoken to me? Just who's in the room that's a newbie versus a spoken to me? Just out yourself in the chat box as a, yeah, I know you, or everybody else I'll just presume as a newbie, and that'll just give me a flavour for where we start. So just pile in. Okay, yeah, Nimish is kicked off with newbie. So there you go. There's the answers: newbie or old hand. There you go. Just out yourselves there. And what I want to do is, see how much help we can get in the next 45 minutes. Okay, I have a fairly energetic speaking style. This is going to sound like I'm winding up some kind of sales pitch. I'm not. There isn't anything to buy. There's nothing, you know, it's going to sound like that, but it's not. It's just my natural speaking style. You think, oh my God, this guy's a salesperson. I'm not. So there's nothing to buy. So just everybody, you know, calm down. Occasionally, all right, I swear. So if you've got little ones in the background, then you might want to just stick your earbuds in or move rooms or something. I'm not a very sweary person, but occasionally a little bit of Anglo-Saxon does slip out. So just heads up on that one. And also, like all good people in marketing, I'm an absolute egomaniac, so I'm going to ask for your engagement. So find the chat box, get ready, because we're going to get into it. I'll do a quick introduction, and whilst I'm doing that, first big question of the night is this. What's the one big thing that you want help with your job seeking? Okay, I know there's all sorts of things you need to do. Got to do a CV, got to do LinkedIn, got to apply for stuff online. I don't know. What's the number one thing that's really bugging you and you want help with? Fire that into the chat box, please. I'll read that, and that'll help me dial up things that are more relevant to you and dial down stuff that, yeah, do you know what, it's useful, Johnny, but don't spend a long time on it. So you can start to dictate the direction we go in tonight by getting on the chat box and just saying what the one thing is you want. Uma straight in, first one, get recruiters to notice me. So there you go, and connecting with decision makers. Cool, thanks, David. Right, so if you're a six-figure job seeker, particularly in the finance industry, then you're in the right place. Because that's what I do for a living. And in fact, there's a whole bunch of people from Feng who've already been through a 5-day job seeking accelerator with me, and some of whom have gone on to pay for coaching with me and have gone on to get their ideal job. So if you want to check me out with any of the Feng membership, then do that. You know, I'm not going to sit here and bang on about how fabulous I am, because that's not very interesting. But I think that what we do want to do is just make sure that if you think, yeah, there might be something to this guy, how do we get some due diligence going on who the hell this is? There's plenty of people in Feng who can speak for me. And if you want to find me on LinkedIn, I don't have a link for that, but Johnny Walker, there's not that many of them around. You'll find me on LinkedIn under the hashtag Walker Talks. If I sling that into the chat box now, there you go. Walker Talks. If you just do a search for that, oh, that's not helpful. So, Charlotte, if you just find that hashtag and just do it out to everybody, I seem to have you on my private chat. There we go. I've got you back to everyone now. That hashtag Walker Talks, you'll find all of my LinkedIn live content out there. You can just direct message me and say, Who in Feng do you know? Who have you helped? And I'll spill the beans. Right.
We've got a few other topics, Johnny. We've got pigeonholed as an interim when he wants a permanent role, getting the most out of networking. I think that's a familiar theme, definitely. Concentrating on what is important, i.e. I feel that I've spent too much time on posts and lost sight of applications on proper communication with specific connections.
This is the normal things, right? This is what I see every time I speak with senior managers and sub-board or board level executives who are very well paid, whether they're a contractor or an interim or consultant or permanent, who don't have a job. They're like, there's so many things I could do. Which ones move the dial and which ones don't? And what order do I do them in? And so having helped out, I don't know, a couple of hundred now, I think we're into the third 100 of six-figure executives get their ideal job faster for more money without having to sell themselves. We've honed the process, okay? And we've got it down to a 7-step system, and it's been kicked to death by those executives. So that Get Found, Get Hired program, which I run, which I'm not here to talk about tonight. I'm not here to shill for that. This isn't a sales pitch, but it comes with a 100% money-back guarantee. We're not screwing around now. It's only for serious people who are taking their career seriously, who are taking themselves seriously and are ready to put the work in. It's not an easy get, okay? Now, if you think you're never going to apply for a job ever again, and the only job you ever get will be your ideal job, and it will come to you faster, and it's going to pay you more money, and you're not even going to have to sell yourself to get it, that's not just tasking up your CV and giving some hints and tips on interviews. There's a bit of graft involved in that, and it's not for everyone. So anyway, there's a whole bunch of resources that you can get on LinkedIn from me, from my content. So just hashtag Walker Talks and you're away. So got some stuff there that everybody wants to get out of this. Let's have a quick talk about the big challenge. See if you resonate with any of this. Just give me a that's me if you hear this and think, that sounds just like me. You're sending off CVs to vacancies you see online and you never hear back. That's one big thing, isn't it? That's so annoying. That's colossal time waster. If you're contacting recruiters and then get messed around with them and treated like dirt, they're just there's not a lot of respect going on there. If you're getting interviews for jobs but they're not quite right, you're in the interview and thinking, what, even if they offered me this job, I might not take it because it's not my sweet spot. Or you get the interview, but you're not quite nailing it. So it's all right. But just, I think I could have done better. All right. And if you're becoming more and more flexible about what job you'll accept because time's gone by and needs must, how far away it is and how much less you're prepared to be paid, only to get even less success applying for those jobs, then you're in that kind of downward spiral, aren't you? And that's a huge problem. You're never going to get your ideal job that way, right? So here's the moon on a stick statement. Wouldn't it be better? Wouldn't it be better if your ideal job came and found you? And what happens if you did it that way around and it happened faster for more money without you even having to sell yourself? Wouldn't that be amazing? I'm not talking about just any old job now. I'm talking about your ideal job. I'm getting really super fussy. Saying, actually, Johnny, if I had my choice, I'd just do this. Like, fine, why aren't you then? Most of you are on 6 figures. You're serious people. What the hell are you doing jobs that, do you know what? If the right job come along, I'd leave this one in a heartbeat. Don't do the damn job. Get a different one. Get a better one. All right. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to whiz through the 7 steps just to show you exactly how it gets done. It's going to answer a lot of those questions that have come through already. And at the end, if there are any things that didn't get solved, then raise them, right? That we're going to spend 15 minutes at the end cracking on through some of the questions that are still outstanding. But before we get into the 7 steps, okay, I just want to share with you 3 huge structural shifts in the job seeking marketplace, which will make a very high impact in how you do your job seeking, all right? This is stuff that you need to know so that you don't carry on doing the stuff that doesn't work anymore, all right? This is going to save you a lot of time. All right. So I'm going to take you on a bit of a story about how things used to be, and then I'm going to compare them with how they are now. And then we'll look at the differences and how you can leverage them. All right. So spare with me. We're going to talk about TVs and holidays for a couple of minutes, but then we're going to apply it to job seeking, which is, quite frankly, what you really want to talk about. So now I'm looking around the room, not casting any aspersions here, but let's have a little scroll through all of the people. And most of you are, without being too rude, ladies and gentlemen of a certain age. You're basically about my age. We are middle-aged, let's say that quietly. And we are basically the last generation to grow up without the internet, okay? We can tell a tale of when there was no online, when if we wanted to buy something, we'd have to go down to the shops because that's all there was. There wasn't an online alternative. all right? And we didn't have enough information about what we wanted to buy, so we'd have to go inside the shop and speak to a sales assistant. And however benign and professional the following process was, it was a sales process, right? We were talking to them, getting the information that we needed about whatever it was we wanted to buy. And at the end of that process, they're trying to sell us something. Well, actually, it's kind of what we went into the shop for anyway, so no big deal. However, zoom forward, no pun intended there, zoom forward to where we are now, 21st century, post-internet era and all that. If you and I want to browse for stuff that we don't have full information on, we don't schlep down to the high street anymore, do we? No, we jump straight online. And that's because all of the information that was exclusive to the salesperson and that we were dependent on in order to be able to make a decision about what we wanted has now been transferred to the internet, where we can access it for ourselves. So we don't need a salesperson, yeah? Whatever it was that we wanted to buy, and I'm just going to pick on some examples now, and I've told you what they're going to be, TVs and holidays, but quite frankly, it applies to everything. All that information you'd normally want before you made a decision. How heavy a TV can you hang on a UK stud wall? Yeah, you can just get that answer from Google. There's no problem there. What's the difference between LED and LCD? You can just download a PDF about that. Yeah, you just get it emailed to you. If it's holidays, what's the sunny side of the hotel for your evening gin and tonic? You can get all that stuff from the customer reviews. You don't need to go and stand next to a salesperson anymore. All right. So let's just stick with the TVs for a minute, and then I'm going to start applying this to job seeking, and then you're going to go, oh my God, that's all completely different to how I thought it was going to be. You found a TV you like? Yeah. It's got all the whistles and bells you want. It's internet connected. It's wafer thin. You can roll it up like a newspaper, whatever flicks you switch about TVs. Now you've got to decide where you're going to get it from. And that's when the marketing messages come into play. You get those adverts down the side of the screen, and those adverts will say something like this. They'll say, click and collect, watch the big game this afternoon. You're like, oh, if that message appeals to you, then you're probably going to be an Argos customer, because that's what that message is for. Yeah. Or it might say 2 years warranty instead of the standard 12 months, in which case you might be a Currys PC World customer, because that's the kind of thing they do. It might say exclusive model to us. It's a lie. Actually, it's exactly the TV you want. All they've done is change the plastic trim around the screen. Technically speaking, it's exclusive because of that, but otherwise it's the same thing. Plus, they'll deliver it in a big green lorry and park it outside your house all morning while where the neighbours can see it while they install the TV. Yeah, it turned out you're a crashing middle-class snob and you're a John Lewis customer. I won't tell. So now you've decided what you want to buy and also where you're going to get it from. And depending on what you're actually shopping for, it might not be a TV or a holiday. It can be anything. You can ping your credit card details into the screen and it turns up in the post. Okay, you know, what the hell's this got to do with job seeking, Johnny? I just wanted you to observe one thing before we move into the job seeking. It's this. At no stage during the entire transaction did a salesperson even know you existed. They had no idea you were online. No idea you were looking, no idea you were about to buy something, and had absolutely no ability to influence that transaction whatsoever. Didn't even know you existed. It's no longer a sales process. Yeah, that's changed. It's no longer a sales world. It's a buying process. It's a buyer's world, okay? Because unless you decide you want to buy something and go looking online, nothing happens. Because no salesperson knows who you are. They can't start the process up. It's the buyer who starts the process up. Right, now let's apply that principle to the job seeking marketplace, and I'm going to give you the 3 structural shifts. By the way, is there anybody here who just doesn't recognize what I'm talking about and thinking, what's Johnny smoking? Is he on crack or something? You know, of course it's, you know, there's sales going on. It's a buyer's world, right? If you disagree with that, then let me know, because it means I haven't quite articulated that point. But you're like, yeah, no, do you know what? That's me, Johnny. I buy stuff I don't really get sold to anymore. I think that'd be, just let me know, buy versus sell. Do you recognize that? Or do you think, I don't know what he's talking about? The man's on crack. So the first thing to know is this, is that hiring manager, is not used to having to run the gauntlet of a sales pitch anymore. Yeah, they just don't do that, right? If they're in the mood to buy, they'll buy, right? So if you're selling yourself, hi, I'm great, hire me, you know, here's my CV, maybe you've got a recruiter shilling for you as well. It's not what the hiring manager wants you to do. All right, stop hassling them with your bloody email saying I'm great, CV attached, covering email, blah, 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 right? They don't want it. It's just clogging up their inbox with stuff they didn't ask for, don't want, and it's a waste of their time and therefore a waste of yours, all right? There is a process at play here, and the process is a buying process. And unless you're allowing the hiring manager to engage in a buying process, which is the same process you engage in when you buy stuff, including TVs and holidays, then quite frankly, you're swimming against the tide. And that is hard work, all right? So allowing a buying process to take place and positioning yourself to be part of a buying process is a lot less friction for the hiring manager and gets you where you want to go. So that's structural shift number one. It's a buying process now, not a sales process. So stop flogging yourself to death and position yourself to get bought instead. Second one, super big one, this. If I was a hiring manager, I no longer have to advertise the vacancy. And that's double right now because of COVID. The market is long on job seekers and short on vacancies. If you advertise a role right now, your inbox gets crushed. You only do that once as a hiring manager and you learn not to do that again. So instead, they start looking online, they start looking on CV boards, they start looking on LinkedIn, they start speaking to their network offline, asking who they'd recommend, and they can do all that without you even knowing they had a vacancy. Yeah. They get to see several candidates who are recommended to them that they found on LinkedIn. And if they like one of them, they'll hire them. And then they announce to the world that they made a hire. And you're like, what do you mean you hired someone? I didn't even know you had a vacancy. What the hell's going on there? It's called the hidden jobs market. It's not hidden, all right? The vacancies didn't sneak off around the back of the bike sheds for a crafty fag out of view, all right? That's not what happened. It's not hidden at all. It's a misnomer. The correct name for the hidden jobs market, I'm sorry to be a pedant about this, but it makes it a lot easier to understand, is it's the unadvertised jobs market, all right? The buying process happened behind a screen. You can't see it happen. So you didn't know there was a vacancy to sell yourself to. And at a very senior level, which is pretty much all of you, that can be about half your market. Yeah, and if the higher up you go and the more money you're on, a lower percentage of your market is advertised. Yeah, not many CEO jobs make it out as an advert, right? They normally engage a headhunter. They normally start asking for recommendations from their network. The whole process is way more discreet, right? And once you break through the 100K mark, I would argue that somewhere around 50% and more of your entire jobs market is unadvertised. Problem, if you're in sales mode, you can't sell yourself to stuff you can't see, right? That's just throwing mud at the wall in the dark. You're never going to hit your target that way, all right? So you've got to allow yourself to be bought by the hiring manager, and that then unlocks the size of the market, yeah? If they can see you rather than you trying to sell yourself to them, if they buy you, then that includes all of the unadvertised jobs. And suddenly the market size for you and the process that you're engaging in is aligned. So like, okay, this is all good stuff, right? I want to take the friction out for the hiring manager, and I want a bigger market to choose from. Of course you do. Third big shift in the jobs market is this, and then I'm going to walk you through the 7 steps, is buyer-seller integrity. This is huge, all right? So please, 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 please pay attention to this. If you are involved in a transaction and there is a salesperson involved too, if the salesperson thinks that what they've got matches your needs 75% or better, then they'll take a swing at selling it to you because that's what they do for a living. They're a professional salesperson, all right? That's how they make their money. I have no problem with that, by the way, and there's no implied criticism there. However, if you remove the salesperson from the equation, as is the case online, remember when you were buying TVs and holidays, they didn't even know you existed. Actually, buyers don't get excited by a 75% match, including you when you're buying. You know, it kind of does what I'm after, but it's not exactly what I wanted. I'll keep looking. So actually, buyers get excited near a 95%. There's like, ooh sound appears. You're like, oh, that's exactly what I'm looking for. How much is that? That is when the buying conversation surfaces, okay? And there's a disconnect between those two numbers, 75% and 95%. You all spotted that in finance. Those two numbers are different, Johnny. That's explained very, very simply. Salespeople are burdened with the responsibility of making money out of transactions. So of course they want to lower the bar as much as possible. I mean, without being ridiculous, because you know, I think if someone tried to sell you something that was only a 50% match to your needs, you'd just laugh at them. But at a 75% match to needs, some customers do open their wallet, and that's when sales kicks up a gear. Yeah. However, on the buying side, yeah, buyers are not trying to make money out of a transaction. Actually, they're trying to solve a problem. So they want that bar to be set as high as possible. And again, without being ridiculous, I think if you said, no, I'm not spending any money unless it's 100% perfect, do you know what? That solution probably doesn't exist. I think you're probably being unreasonable there. But a 95% match to your needs, yeah, there is a reasonable expectation that that solution does exist. And that's what you go looking for. So the corollary to this is this. If you want to get your ideal job and you want it faster, then you've got to present a buying process, because that's the process the hiring manager is using right now for pretty much everything. All right. You've got to expand the network of vacancies, so the pool of vacancies, because that's where the greater quantity of them are, by allowing the buyer of unadvertised, the hiring manager of an unadvertised vacancy can see you. And when the buyer buys, and this is the really important bit, and this is going to talk to, some people are talking about interviews and not quite nailing it. When the buyer buys, yeah, they are more discerning than when a seller sells. Yeah, so if you can position yourself properly, then they're only going to contact you as a job seeker if they perceive you to be a 95% match to the role, which is when your interviews get a lot more interesting. Yeah. So you're online right now and you look at a vacancy and you think, well, I can do 75% of that. I'll give it a go. I'm a talented person. I can work out the rest. And off goes your CV. I'm great. Hire me. You know what? The buyer's not remotely impressed. All right. 95%, get them to buy you instead. It's the process they want. It's where more of the vacancies are, and you'll end up in an interview where you're a much, much higher quality match because they'll be more discerning on your behalf than, quite frankly, you are. All right. So, okay, fine, Johnny. Does anybody here think, nope, this is not for me? You know, no. Or do you think, yeah, no, this is all making complete sense, Johnny? I've no idea how to do it, by the way, but which I'm going to get onto in a second. But, you know, have I lost anyone along the way, or are we all good so far? Just give me a, yep, I'm still in. Or do you think, no, he's lost me. I'm going to go and make some tea. Yeah, all thumbs up all round. Stephen saying, I'm intrigued. I love this, the thumbs up motion from loads of you there. Wow. How cool is that? I've never been able to do that myself. Right, okay, fine. So there are only two. That's how simple this program is. There's only two principal elements to being bought, okay? Rather than sell yourself, you've got to get bought, all right? And that only breaks down into two areas, right? First of all, you've got to be visible, right? Can't buy you if I can't find you, right? So you've got to be the tall poppy in the field for whatever you do, all right? The other thing is you've got to be compelling, all right? That because the buyer, yeah, is going to be having a look at you without you necessarily knowing that they're doing it, right? So you can't influence what they think with some kind of sales pitch. So your marketing, your messaging, yeah, has got to be absolutely dialed in, really on point, because you're not be present to influence what they have to say, right? So you've got to be compelling when you are found, and to get found in the first place, you've got to be visible. Yeah, does that all make sense? So there are 7 steps to doing that. Now, leading question. God, I'm going to sound like a cheesy marketer, but who here thinks, yeah, do you know what? I really want to know what those 7 steps are. Or do you want me to abandon that and just go into, answering your questions? Just give me a little flavor for whether or not this is something that, yeah, do you know, yeah, 7 steps, Johnny. I'm still here at 23 minutes in. I want it, all right? Because I'm just going to give you the lot, right? And there's no sales pitch at the end, so we're not going anywhere with this. I'm just going to try and help you out as much as I possibly can, yeah? Cool, all right. So 7 steps then. Tell me if this is resonant with you. Yeah, lots of people saying 7 steps. Nimesh is in, Malcolm, Rupak, Tim, Paul. Tim, hello, Tim. Go for it, JW. Tim Ernst. Tim's not a new person to hearing me go on a full bore rant when I'm on Walker Talks. Okay, this is going to sound resonant with all of you. Leora's in the room. I've done Johnny's 3-day challenge. You really realize your value and how to present it. Leora runs the New York thing chapter. So, there's another person you can check me out with. The 5-day challenge I run is completely free, by the way. So that's not her shilling for something I make money out of. It's just stuff that's good. Right. You've been around the block a few times, haven't you, ladies and gents? You're senior people, a few grey hairs in the room. You picked up quite a few skills, quite a few capabilities. That's great. If you're selling yourself, big kit bag of stuff to choose from. However, if you're going to get bought, right, by someone who you don't necessarily know who they are right now, then you can't just spill the entire kit bag of stuff on the ground and go, there you go, choose from that, make of that what you will, because no one's going to bother to assemble all that stuff into a meaningful solution. So you've got to narrow it down to one thing, yeah? Because, look, you've all probably been senior enough to be hiring managers, all right? No hiring manager wakes up in the morning and says, you know what I need? I need a jack of all trades, someone who's a bit of everything, someone who can do half a dozen different things. Yeah, they're not looking for that. No hiring manager ever said that. So you banging on about the full width of your capabilities when you're on LinkedIn, I can do this and I can do that and I can do the other thing, and in your CV, etc. That message is a waste of time. All right, zero it into one thing. Yeah, in the morning when the hiring manager wakes up, they've got a problem and it's causing them some pain, enough to motivate them to spend some money on hiring someone. And we're talking about 6 figures now for you guys. So whatever problem that is, you need to be a solution to that. All right, the narrower you are, the taller you are with your message, the taller the poppy in the field you are, the easier you are to see. Yeah, the more broad-based you are, the lower you get, similar height to everyone else, can't bloody see you. All right. So if I'm in buying mode, I want you to make yourself super visible to me, please. All right. So narrow and tall rather than broad and wide. I'm not saying you won't get to do the full width of your capabilities, but you're not going to get found for them all simultaneously. All right. So the message has got to be narrow. I'm sure when you get hired, you'll broaden up your capabilities and do all sorts of wonderful things. All righty. Positioning. Yeah. Here's a little anecdote for you. See if this makes sense to you. How much does a one-man band get paid? I'm not talking about the solopreneur, the sole trader. I'm talking about the actual one-man band. Bass bin on their back, harmonica in front of their face, cymbals on their knees. How much does that person get paid? Yep. The answer is not much. The upside is virtually everyone can afford him. Yeah. Downside, no one's looking for him in that sea of noise. Pretty much indistinguishable from everybody else. So next question is this: how much does a solo violinist get paid, even when part of an orchestra? Yeah. Massive, highest paid player in the room. All right. Downside is actually fewer people can afford that person. But the upside is that one clarion note that the violinist can play to attract your attention is super, super visible. And the few that are looking for that pay handsomely. All right. So narrow your message to one specialism and get found for that specialism. All right. Get hired by those people who want that particular specialism. Right. And the success and the money will follow right along after that. Yeah. Does anybody here think, what do you mean, Johnny? I've got to ditch like 9/10 of what I'm capable of only to get found? Yeah. Not to do a job. I'm sure you'll broaden up your capabilities once you're in the job. But yeah, you try and get me to find you for all of the things you do at the same time. No one's looking for that. No one's looking for a jack of all trades. Yeah. All right. So jack of all trades versus master. If you're bought into being the master of something, that's going to be your message. Right. Here's a question. Yeah. Okay. Do you agree with that? Do you agree specialism beats generalism? Yeah. Just give me a specialism v generalism. Let's get a little sense check on where we are with this one. Specialism, says David. So you at least I've managed to make myself clear to at least one person. I'm not doing too badly. Specialism beats, says Zuma. Okay, good. Let's talk a little bit about a magical formula then for how to articulate yourself, because if you decided what you're going to specialize in, and I can't decide that for you, although I'm going to help you do that at the end of today. I'm going to do that in about 20 minutes time. There is a magical formula for messaging that specialism, and it's called the 5P formula. All right. And if you put 5P formula, I think if you put the word magical in, actually, if you in LinkedIn, if you do in the search box, magical 5P together, there's no space between that, and then formula. I did an entire post on this. All right. So it's not secret sauce that I'm trying to tempt you to spend money on to get. It's out there. I've just published it. All right. There's a bunch of science and data behind it, but actually all you want is the result. And it's this. All right. The first P is person. Right. The second P is place. And I'm going to go through this a bit slower in a second. Third P is purpose. The fourth P is performance. And the fifth P is process. All right. Person, place, purpose, performance, process. That's the 5P formula. The person is basically the job title or the responsibilities of someone. So it might not actually be their actual job title. It might just be the person in charge, or the person who heads up finance, rather than necessarily the CFO or FD, because you don't even know what the job title is going to be like at the place you're trying to get attention from. So just put the person in charge of finance would be the person. Yeah, that's the first P. The second is the place, the generic or preferred employer type. You might want to be, I don't know, you want to be attractive to the person in charge of finance at an investment bank. So an investment bank would be place. Yeah. Or it might be, I'm trying to attract the attention of the CFO at fast growth tech companies. There's another place. Or it might be medium-sized businesses in the Southwest. So it doesn't have to be an industry vertical, but you do have to define the place, whether that's by culture or location or size or industry vertical. You have to define that place. So person and place. Purpose. What's the benefit of what you do? You should all know the answer to this. All right, but I'm going to have some fun in a second. So in your professional opinions as professionals in the finance world, what do you believe that all commercial businesses do? What do they have in common? There's only three things that all businesses do. Okay, it's not about the widgets they make. I'm ignoring charity now. I'm ignoring public sector, but private commercial businesses only do three things. I wonder if you can tell me what they are. because once you've got that idea, Nimish says a profit is one. Nimish, you're nearly there. Businesses cannot make a profit. All right, profit is a byproduct of doing two other things, and they're two other things. Tim, that's cheating. You've seen this stuff before. Tim's got it. Sean says sell stuff. Phil says cut costs. Cost is one thing, Phil. Not always cutting them, but certainly optimizing them. But Tim's nailed it because he's heard this before. Revenue, cost, and risk. Right, all businesses bring money in the front door. Right, and we call that revenue, and you all know that. You're in finance, right? That's the posh name for bringing money in through the front door. It's called revenue. So sure, when you say sell stuff, that means revenue, doesn't it? That's money in the front door. They also optimize the amount of money going out the back door, and that's called costs. And you don't want to reduce it too low, because sometimes costs have an ROI to them. You spend money to get money. But revenue in the front door, costs out the back door, and the middle bit, in between the front and the back doors, there's a ton of stuff going on in there. And we just lump that into one big bucket called risk. But actually within that, there's lots and lots of mini buckets. There's operational risk, there's technology risk, there's regulatory risk, finance risk, health and safety risk. Depending on what kind of business you're in, it could be any kind of risk, legal risk, compliance risk. It goes on. There's a lot of risk, and that's where most people are employed. You tend to find that product, marketing, sales are front door people. IT, finance tend to be backdoor people, and in the middle you've got HR, legal, blah, 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 bunch of shared services, and operational people. That's risk. There's only three things. All businesses do that. Okay. Your job is going to be aligned to one or more of those purposes. All right. And if you haven't linked your job to one or more of those purposes, you've got what my mother calls busy work. All right. You just get her out from underneath her feet, because you're doing that. So who said it was profit? That was Nimish. Nimish, you can't make profit, but what you can do is make revenue and control costs. And if you do that well, then the byproduct of that is profit, or possibly a loss if you screw it up. But you can't go and make it directly. So all those people wandering around saying, I make profit. No, you bloody don't. You make revenue and you optimize costs. Profit is a byproduct. It's not a direct thing you can do straight to it. It's a tangential. Right. Tim says, I won't give any more spoilers. That's okay, Tim. Nimish says, offer products and services. Without value creation, no one buys. I dispute that, Stephen. I've seen people who've taken one thing and just moved it to another location and flogged it. They've added no value whatsoever. You can arbitrage a market and not add an awful lot of value. But what that value creation piece is in the middle, that's the engine of a business. All you're doing is applying processes, but what you're trying to do is mitigate the risk of those processes, either eating up too much revenue, eating up too much cost, or harming customers and future revenue. So, I dispute that, although I think it's genuinely true that most businesses do add value in order to get someone to buy. But it's not actually a prerequisite. It's just common. All right. So 3 Ps then: person, place, and your purpose. Do you help a business make the revenues go up? Some commercial FDs do that. Do you help the cost go down? A lot of FDs spend their time looking over the books and making sure the numbers go down. Do you help mitigate the risk of something, including financial compliance recurring? Yeah. So revenue, risk, or cost. And performance. What's the scale at which you do it at? 4th P, performance. At what level do you operate? Do you help them save £100,000 a year in cost? Do you help them save 10 million a year in cost? What level are you playing at? What are your numbers? Yeah. If it's revenue, if you're a revenue enabling finance person, how much more revenue would the business make if they did what you did, or if they allowed you to do your magic? Yeah. Revenues up, costs down. Let's start quantifying that benefit. Yeah. Risks. We broke financial compliance 100 times last year. This year we only broke it 10 times. So we've had a 90% improvement in our financial risk profile. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a pounds and pence answer. Yeah, just a straight 90% drop in an absolute number is fine. So, and then there's process, how you do it, by leading finance functions effectively. I'm being glib, but you get the point. Is there that person, place, purpose, performance, process. If you say that rather than, hello there, I've got 20 years experience, I'm ACCA qualified. No one cares about your ingredients. What they care is about what's the result of those ingredients to them. Yeah. So everybody get that? Do you think, yeah, 5 Ps. Okay, Johnny, that's a better way of writing down what I do. Robert says, where does value realization, M&A, and corporate finance fit into the revenue cost risk model? M&A is basically revenues. All right, that's normally about getting money in through the door by welding 2 businesses together. M&A is just a process by doing that. All right, you buy a business or you merge a business. It's because you're expecting a revenue uplift, and or possibly some synergies, which is the posh word for costs going down per revenue item. So M&A is always about revenue and or cost. Corporate finance, that is a function of scale. You normally borrow money to allow the business to grow, which is about enabling revenues, isn't it? Corporate finance is just a process. It's not an end in itself, all right? I raise large amounts of money by being a guru in corporate finance because that enables the business to grow by X revenue. It's a revenue function, all right? Corporate finance is a revenue function. And so it goes on, yeah? Alrighty, so that's revenue, risk, and cost, all right? All right, let's whiz on, and because we're kind of getting into the end of things now, and I've got some things I want to talk to you about. Big four channels then. So you know what it is you do. It's revenue, risk, or cost. You know how to articulate it really well, 5P formula. You've decided to specialize rather than generalize in one of those revenue, risk, or cost functions. You now got to get your message out so somebody, ideally a hiring manager, actually sees it. Because or are you knowing it? What happens if the hiring managers don't see it? So very quick questions, please. Everybody get on the chat box right now. There's 4 places on which your message has got to go out. So these are the 4 fields in which you need to be the tall poppy, okay? First field is your CV. Question for you. What do you think the purpose of your CV is? Why bother writing the document? Why bother giving it to an employer or potential employer? What's the point of that document? What's the point of your CV? All right, chuck that in the chat box, please. I'm going to amuse myself at 20 to 7 on a, I don't even know what today is, Wednesday, on a Wednesday night. See how many of these I got. So get a call back, says Jayesh. Nearly. Sean says to get an interview. Let's see what else is out there. So once you get your funky message, you need to distribute that. CVs, the second one is LinkedIn. That's another place where people will go looking for you. Third one is your personal network, which at your level, I would argue is the premium channel. And the fourth field that you need to be a tall poppy in is the recruitment marketplace. And we'll talk very, very quickly about those. I'm going to rattle through this super, super quick now. Robin says to confirm you make the JD requirements. Emma says to provide a basis of discussion for an interview. One person nailed it, Sean. Everybody else is kind of skirting around the edges of this. Your CV has one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to get you an interview. All right? It's not an audit trail of your career. It's not an explanation of your skills, knowledge, qualification, experience. I don't care how comprehensive a document is in any of those aspects. If it doesn't get you an interview, it has failed, okay? The CV can't get you the job, and if it doesn't get you the interview, you can't get the job, and that's game over, all right? So with that in mind, your CV needs to do 3 things in order to get you the interview. First of all, it's got to be relevant, all right? Now, that's the problem with people with very extensive careers like you guys, is what do you leave in and what do you take out? Because you can't put the whole lot in there because you'll bore them to death, all right? 20-year career will take up a dozen pages. What do you leave in? What do you take out? Do you take a risk that the things you take out might have been the things they wanted? So how do you nail the relevancy every single time? So first thing on a CV is relevancy. Second thing is beneficial language. Most of you will tell me that you've got 20 years experience. You've got knowledge of, I don't know, P&L. You've got qualifications, ACCA. You've got et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But hardly any of you tell me what the results of that stuff is. Yeah, what's in it for me? Yeah, don't show me the ingredients, show me the result. All right, so that's back to purpose and performance, which we talked about earlier. All right, and the third thing is buyer's journey. And this is huge. Buyer's journey is just a posh phrase for the order in which you present information before you ask someone to make a decision, normally to buy something, hence the phrase buyer's journey, but it can be anything else, book a meeting, click this button, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Give us your email address. There's an order in which you present that information. Virtually no CV writer in the world knows this because it comes from marketing. But if you can get relevancy and purposeful language and a structure to your document, which is buyer's journey orchestrated, you're going to get the interview, all right? Because there's no CV that can beat that, all right? Second channel to market is your LinkedIn profile. There are 3 elements to that. I won't ask questions about that because I'm going to start rattling through things now. First of all is the keyword SEO of your actual profile. It's got to have the right keywords in there, all right? And you can do that, you can find out what they are by just searching on vacancies on LinkedIn for the kind of things that you want to do and have a read of them and see what keywords that they're using to describe the person they're looking for. If you're in change management, particularly in finance, you could be a project manager, you could be a program manager, you could be a head of change, you could be in transformation, you could be in strategy. It's all fucking change. But depending on the level you're at, the vocabulary changes. And if you're using the wrong vocabulary, you're going to get attracted to the wrong roles. And then you can have those near miss interviews. So check the language, use the vocabulary of the day to populate your LinkedIn profile. Second thing is you're going to need to grow your network on LinkedIn. The more people are in your first level connections, the more people will be able to see your profile when they go looking, because first level connections appear higher up in the search results than second level connections, ditto third. And so the more first level connections you have, the better. But of course, you want those connections to be highly relevant to you. You don't want every old Tom, Dick and Harry populating your network. You need people that could hire you, can recommend you, peers, very tightly controlled network. And then thirdly, you're going to give that network something to chew on. You're going to need to do some content, which always freaks the crap out of everybody. There's a really, really easy fix for that in terms of doing content on LinkedIn. It's not scary at all, not salesy and pushy. And, Johnny, I hate marketing. I had trying to sell myself. Yeah, don't. Right? No one wants to see a sales pitch as content on LinkedIn. Don't do that. All right. But there are things you can do that will bring you up the search rankings and make you visible and compelling to the people you want to be hired by, so you get found by them faster. So that's CV, LinkedIn. There's your personal network.
So going back to LinkedIn, Johnny, we had an interesting question on that earlier in terms of how do you make sure it's interesting content on LinkedIn? So maybe things that people haven't seen before, as opposed to like BBC News, for instance.
Yeah, you don't have to be a thought leader. You do not have to be original. That's all bullshit. There are loads of people out there who just don't know what you know. All right. What's the definition of an expert? You know more than the person you're talking to. That's it. It's a relative term. All right. You're all specialists in what you do. There are people out there who are looking for an FD who can help them grow revenues, or looking for an FD that can help them control costs. Jump online and do a thing about that. You're not going to say anything that wasn't already out there, right? There is no secret source left anymore. If you get blind on YouTube and Google, you're going to discover the answers to everything in the world, right? You don't have a USP. You don't have to have one either, all right? What you do have is you, all right? And there are some people out there that are wanting an FD who can help them grow revenues. They're going to see your post and go, oh God, no, not him. But there are other people who are going to watch that and go, that voice would fit in just nicely here, and they know what the hell they're doing. And you're allowing them to buy into you more than they could otherwise do by watching a text post or having no content whatsoever. So how do you do it? By being you and knowing what you know. That's enough for someone to hire you. Yeah? You don't have to be a show person. You are who you are. I've seen some actuarial content on LinkedIn. It's the social media equivalent of watching paint dry. It's pretty dull stuff, but they're very, very cerebral and dry humor really resonates with the people who want to hire them. That's who they are. So you get to be you. You get to be you. You don't have to push yourself up. You are who you are. That's a winner. All right. Your personal network. You are making a mistake with your personal network. Right? I'll tell you what that mistake is right now. You're having this conversation, which is, hi there, you know me, we work together, or some other way that you know me, and I'm looking for my next job. If there's anything going at your place, let me know. Can I send my CV in to you, etc., etc. And that's the conversation, because that's what the conversation is when people call you, when you are in work and saying, hey, buddy, can you help me out? I've got a CV, can I send it in to you? And your heart sinks, doesn't it? You haven't got a vacancy just sat on your desk waiting for them to apply. But yeah, sure, send the CV in. You never look at it, do you? And at half time, you don't even keep the damn thing. Problem with that is that 3 weeks later, you're at the water cooler or in the elevator lift with someone saying, bitch moan, I've got this problem. You're like, oh, hold on a second. That's the problem that my mate Tim Elms solves, isn't it? Only you didn't keep the CV, you didn't share it with your colleagues, you didn't take it into HR, and fessing up to that isn't something you fancy doing. So sod it, I'll leave HR to solve that problem, and you don't call them back. And you've just asked your friends to do the same for you, and they're going to go through the same process of, yeah, I don't have a vacancy, I can't help you today, so I failed your sense of obligation, and in the future, that's a barrier to me calling you back. So I don't want to fess up to the fact that, quite frankly, I wasn't successful on your behalf. It's the wrong conversation to have. There is a better one to have, as we're very, very close on time now, I'm going to say, if you want that conversation, just find me on LinkedIn, direct message me, and I'll send you that. It's just a straight PDF. I'll just send it to you. And then you've got your recruiters. Less said about those, the better, quite frankly. I was one for 15 years. I was on stage getting my award, stood next to some bloke in a blue suit that was too tight and more hair gel than you can poke a stick at. They're just horrific people. but there are one or two amazing individuals in the recruitment space. Your job is to do two things in the recruitment channel if you're going to optimize it. One is, who are the very, very best recruiters? And secondly, how do I get them to treat me as their number one candidate? Because if you know who they are and they just ignore you, you're not that much further forward. You've got to have both of those things. And there is a process for achieving that. You get to choose your next boss. Top 5% of job seekers do not apply for jobs. They get found and they go one step further. They only get found by people they want to be found by. Right? They get to control who eyeballs them. And they'll pick 20 firms and they'll know, because we have the data at our end, that 1 to 3 of those firms, 5 to 15% of your market, is trying to find you right now, which means you're getting interviewed not just for the job you want to do, but also at the place you want to do it. Yeah, so you have an extensive amount of control there. Then there's the interview. We're going to go back to the buyer's journey for the interview. You've got 3 things you must do at interview. Look, you can get hints and tips on interviews from Google. You don't need me for that nonsense. The really big stuff is what happens if, and you've done this as hiring managers, all right? You've got a job vacancy, you've seen 5 people for it. No one dropped the ball, no one had a car record interview. One of them could probably do the job, but at your level, 100 grand plus, I don't know whether probably is enough. Yeah, the consequences of screwing up the hire of a 6-figure person are pretty intense for me as a hiring manager. I'd like to de-risk that if I possibly can. And probably isn't enough. It's not a no-brainer of a decision. So the feedback to you is, yes, well done. You had a good interview. No one dropped the ball. But we're not hiring anyone today. You're like, what do you mean? You know, I can do the job and I had a great interview. What the hell is there left to do? There was one other thing left to do and you didn't do it. All right. And that is de-risk the decision to hire at all. All right. This is no longer about you. All right. Because, you know, you were the best candidate on the day, probably. You know, you can't do better than that. It's not about coming first, you're there already. It's about de-risking the decision to hire. How do you give the hiring manager confidence to pull the trigger on the hiring decision so that the job offer comes out, rather than them have the fear about the consequences of 6 months down the road saying, uh-oh, we made a wrong decision, I've got to let someone go. No one wants to be in that conversation, that's horrible. And then going to their boss and explaining why they're 6 months behind on whatever it is they're doing because they hired the wrong person. They don't really fancy an ass kicking either. So how do you make sure they feel really super confident about pulling the trigger on that decision? So that's a thing you must do in an interview. There's a whole get someone, because what I'll do is I'll send it to you as a PDF. There's a thing called the 6-figure interview playbook. All right, I've actually written this all out for you. So that is available. So you can either email me directly or direct message me directly. But yeah, if you want to, what's the best thing to do here? It's just how to get out to everyone. Either Charlotte or Mark.
I can share it around if you want to.
Just ask me for it, and I'll send it to you, and then you can just send it on to anybody who wants it. All right, and you know, Feng can have that. I've got no problem with that. So there is an interview playbook for that. And then there's negotiation time. You know, I don't know how much money you're all on, but you know, here's the thing. Here's a question for you all. Is the difference between what your ideal amount of value would be, you know, if you got your full worth to do a job versus the amount you're prepared to accept in excess of 10 grand? You're like, do you know what? Needs must, I'll take the job. But on a good day, my ideal job with the wind behind me and the sun shining, actually I'd ask for this amount. Is the difference between those two figures more than 10 grand? It normally is for people on 6 figures, you know. I could take a job at 120, but ideally I'd want 135. It's not like your world collapsed, is it, to take the lower figure, but 15, 20, 30 grand pay losses are not uncommon for people who screw this up. That's the fastest way you're ever going to spend that kind of money. No need to do that, right? We can fix that. Right.
I think it's time for questions. And,
it is.
Thanks for that, Johnny. I think we covered a lot. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions coming in.
There is. All right, fine. There's just one other thing. It's just the minor risks for references and testimonials. People sometimes fumble the ball. If you've gone to all the effort of getting your offer for your ideal job at the right money, and then you screw it up, that's going to sting like a bitch, isn't it? So anyway, there you go. There's a whole ton of stuff there. We did overrun a bit. I got carried away at the start. So
well, while we're waiting for questions to come in, I'll just mention that Lior McGill in the New York has mentioned that you're presenting to that chapter on December 10th of December. Yep. So if anybody wants to see you again or miss today's session, then feel free to register and attend there.
Yeah, I think that we had quite a few international members from Feng pay some interest because the New York market's as hard as the London market. But this is cross industry. I've helped out people on the West Coast, East Coast, Europe, South Africa. I've even had some crazy people when I coach this live get up in Hong Kong. And I don't know what kind of time of day it is there, but that's brutal.
It's lunchtime, so it's not too bad.
Not when I was coaching it live, it wasn't.
Oh, okay, bit different matter.
Yeah,
if you can let me know, get some questions coming in, that'll be fantastic. If when you're asking the question, if you can have your video on, I'm sure that'll make it easier for Johnny. Please do.
Yeah, go for it.
Just need someone to start it off. Who wants to kick us off?
I've given you a lot of information there, so maybe there's something you want to drill down on. And then at the end of this, I'm going to give you all quite a big gift, right? Because I promised I wouldn't do any salesy nonsense. I've got something huge for you all. Gratis.
Everyone's busy taking notes at the moment, from what I can see.
Yeah, everyone's scribbling down. We have recorded everyone. You will all get it on email.
Uma, go ahead.
I will ask. Say, supposing I put out a post, what's the chance of people seeing that post? The hiring decision maker seeing the post.
Yeah.
How do you optimize that?
Hey Uma, how's it going?
Quite busy with various other things.
All right, fine.
It's busy.
Not my first conversation with Uma. What's the chances of a hiring manager seeing the post? Well, start off, how many hiring managers are in the network? Grow the damn network, right? Get as many people who are first level connections as possible. That will increase the chances of someone seeing it. Secondly, use the buyer's journey structure for your post, right? How many posts do I see? Hello there, my name is Uma. I've got 20 years experience, blah, 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 blah. I don't care, right? Good for you. What do you want, a gold star, pat on the back, biscuit? I don't care. What do you do for me, right? What's in it for me? Give me some results, right? So if you would say, who's your ideal employer, Uma?
Siemens is they're very close, only because they're close.
Fine, but they're a large, they're a global electronics company, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
If you are the CFO of a global electronics company or a global manufacturing business or a global high-tech business, then this is for you. You've immediately called out the audience. They know that you're talking to them. Right. Are you having trouble with getting revenues or costs or risk? Then it's because blah, blah, blah. And you walk them through the buyer's journey, which I won't do now because we're running out of time.
Right,
but there's a structure to it. No one cares about you. They don't even know you. They've just stumbled across your post. The top 80% of your post has got to be about them, their problems, their pain, and being a solution to that. At the end, if they get to the end of your post because you kept them going all the way, then they're interested in who you are. If that's something you want to have a confidential discussion about, then direct message me, Uma. I look forward to speaking with you. But don't bang on about yourself at the start because no one cares. Right? They're not there yet. They don't know.
Johnny, I've got a request for the 7 steps. I think no one was able to write them down quick enough. So if you've got a PDF on that, that would be fantastic.
I have an entire 50-page ebook for you. There you go. I'll let you have that as well. So get the 6-figure interview playbook because that's huge, and get the 7 steps to 6 figures ebook. All right, there's 50 pages of pure gold in that. I'll let the Feng members have that gratis.
And the personal network I've got as well. I've got the personal network listed.
So okay. So can I ask about LinkedIn content? Mark, I think we just covered that, didn't we? In terms of LinkedIn content, but if you've got a specific question, Mark, go for it.
Yeah, sure. It's a specific question, Johnny. Is there any value in writing content on LinkedIn that's not really relevant to, the job that you might be wanting to get or something, but it's just an interesting piece that you think other people might be interested in? Perhaps I work for a company that produces content.
No. I'm going to shut that one down right now. Until you have a personal brand, until you have a large audience, and until you have this going really, really well, which is going to be virtually none of you because very few people who need a 6-figure finance job are going to want to build a personal brand on LinkedIn, then all you're doing is detracting from your objective. And if anybody stumbles over your profile later, the latest post they've seen is you talking about your grandkids or whatever it is. It's not helping you get where you want to go. It's a waste of time. So no is the short answer. I spent 2 years before I let any personal content go out at all, by which time I had a massive loyal network and it didn't damage me at all. But until then,
Yeah.
I wouldn't take.
Sorry, I'm not talking about personal content. I'm talking about,
Well,
you know,
anything.
content on electrical cars or something like that.
Yeah, no, nothing. You know, stick to your audience and their problem and their pain, and talking to them until you get your ideal job, and then you're away. Until then, and even now, I mean, I did one about autonomous vehicles yesterday to my closed network, so it didn't go out on LinkedIn. It still freaked them out because it's just not what they're interested in. It's not what they're used to. I mean, it was an interesting article, but it just wasn't resonant to them. So I'm going to say that's a no.
Nimish, I've seen you've come off mute. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. Sorry, I was about to type that in, but anyway, I think, Johnny, you mentioned about getting the message out, and CV was the first part that you discussed, and there are
Yes.
3 sub points with that.
Yes.
Can you go over those 3 sub points again, please?
Yeah, very relevancy, beneficial language, and buyer's journey. Okay. Relevancy is about what do you leave in and what do you take out, because you've all got extensive careers behind you.
Yeah.
So how do you always make it 100% relevant to every single hiring manager that you ever send it to, even if they've all got different jobs? You know, no one wants to do a ball ache of a rewrite every single time, and no one wants to take a risk on the one size fits all CV, because by definition it doesn't. How do you solve that problem? Beneficial language. Don't give me skills, knowledge, qualifications, experience. Give me the results of that, please. Revenues up, costs down, risks mitigated, and the quantity. That's the benefit of hiring you. Hence the name beneficial language. And buyer's journey. Get the structure, the format, the shape of the CV in such an order that they get to the end of that document and go, well, let's book an interview, because that's all you want them to do. All right. And most of you get that wrong. You've got your contact details at the top, and you've got your, I don't know, references available on request, and immediately prior to that is your hobbies and interests at the bottom. I've just finished reading your CV, and all I can read is you like cycling and spending time with your family, and I can get a reference if I want one. Well, the last thing on your CV should be contact me, because that's what you want them to do, all right? There is an order in which you present this information and get them to take a decision to interview you, and most people's CVs are in completely the wrong structure. So there you go.
Paul Clements, I've seen you off mute. Is there a question?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Johnny. I find from my own experience, I mean, for a lot of us, it's quite relevant where when we were young, we were working for bigger companies. And as you get older, you start to seek out those smaller companies like the SMEs, particularly the entrepreneurial ones.
Yep.
I find from my experience, a lot of these real true entrepreneurs out there don't really use LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is in my view, a bit of a waste of time when you're trying to reach out to these types of people.
Sure.
I just wondered if Johnny had any particular views on what's the best way to try and increase your visibility in front of SMEs.
Yeah, a couple of 3 things in there. I mentored a load of startups at level 39 when I worked there. So I know exactly what you mean. They're not welded to LinkedIn. There is also plenty of them that are on LinkedIn, but they're just not very engaging. They don't comment on stuff. They don't like on stuff. And so you don't really know that they're watching. So it's not actually a straight corollary from them. You know, you can't see them, therefore they're not present. They're watching. They're just watching discreetly. But the third thing is that you can't tell whether or not the network that you built up isn't stood next to them at some social event. All right. So LinkedIn is still going to be a very powerful tool, even if the person who hires you doesn't even have a LinkedIn account. All right. So you ignore it at your peril. It's an incredibly powerful tool with virtually everyone in it. Even if the person who hires you has never been on LinkedIn, you can still use LinkedIn to get to them. And secondly, there is an exercise that we run on the Get Found, Get Hired program of directly singling out the individuals at the organizations you want to work for and contacting them directly via email without a sales pitch. All right. So you're right. I mean, sometimes you think, yeah, it doesn't even have a LinkedIn account. How the hell am I going to get him to notice me, quickly? I can't rely on, him being stood at someone next to, somebody I know at a barbecue in 6 months' time. That's not helpful. So how do I get that done now? And there is a whole module on that because I think, you can do it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, don't write LinkedIn off just because you can't see the people you want to be attracted to. They're either watching or they know someone who is. Don't cut that off.
Thanks, Paul. I'm just conscious of time and trying to keep this. I think we are just running over now. Johnny, you mentioned there's a few PDFs I'll try and distribute. Is there any closing words that you'd want to?
There is, and I've just put the link into the comments. Okay, and it's this. On November the 9th, Monday, November the 9th, I'm going to run a free 5-day job seeking accelerator program exclusively for 6-figure earners. That's basically involves me releasing small tasks every day. Several of you have been through this program, so you know what it's all about. So that's, it's not complex stuff you can do every day. Some of those tasks are only 5 minutes long, some of them are half an hour long. So when I say 5 days, we're talking small chunks of time every day. And then at lunchtime, I jump into the program and just see how you got on with the task, give you a hand. And then at the end of the day, I do a huge, like literally 1 hour session every day, answering questions and helping people out. And at the end of that Friday, everyone will have their positioning and messaging fixed. All right, that's the whole point of that program. It's not general fluff. It's the first 2 steps of the 7-step program. I just give it away and I walk you, handhold you through the whole thing all week. And by the Friday, you've got that. And if at the end of Friday, you think, right, great, I've got that. Thanks so much, Johnny, I'm out of here. Then great, take it, run and be successful. A percentage of you will go, wow, this guy really knows his stuff. He's absolutely blown the socks off me, which is kind of the point of me doing it. And some of you will go on to continue working with me, which is a paid program. And that's how I put food on my table. But I'm prepared to love you to death for 5 days before you have to make that decision. So that's a free 5-day job seeking accelerator program. That link is in the comments, and there is absolutely no obligation to buy whatsoever. I'm very upfront about what the whole point of that is. My job is just to showcase how bloody amazing I am so that some of you spend money with me. But whether you do or don't is entirely up to you. And at the end of it, if you've got enough value and you want to run with it, with my blessings, all right? So it's a nice, easy 5 days, but very, very, very powerful. So grab yourself a spot on that. It's free, it's run online, and Jayesh is saying, so thank you, you've got to go. So is everybody else. It's 7 o'clock. You've all got other things to do. So there you go. Grab your link, get involved, and Mark will get the PDFs off me and forward them to you.
Just closing remarks from me. So yeah, so thank you, Johnny. Greatly appreciated. Appreciate, I think several of you done the 5-day course. Thanks, Paul Howarth, for introducing you for today. Covered a lot of information. I'm sure there'll be a lot of follow-up questions and emails, getting in contact with you directly. So yeah, it's been excellent. Thanks to Charlotte, as always, in terms of trying to get this organised and getting this all sorted in the US. Just a reminder that Johnny is presenting on December the 10th to the New York chapter, 5 p.m. So it's going to be a late one, 10 p.m. UK time. Yeah. But we'll certainly be there. And a reminder, we've got the Feng Job Club. So sign up for that this Monday, the 26th, that goes ahead. So Gaminder and I will be co-chairing that. So please sign up. If you're on the market, it'll be great to see you. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good stuff about the Feng Job Club, so that's well worth it. Okay. Seek me out on LinkedIn, connect to me, and then you'll get all my free content on LinkedIn. I don't pitch anyone there, so it's a nice, safe environment for you to speak to me. And you can always then direct message me and just get stuff. I'm kind of a giving guy. I'm in the very, very fortunate position of not having to make any money, so I can be pretty generous in my time and just help people along. I'm here for the success now. So go for gold. That's it, everyone. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed this. You guys are really interesting. Thanks everyone for attending. See you all soon. All right, take care.